For my 27th review, I'm going to touch on a game that I've rented many, many times in my childhood. It's called Power Blade. Never heard of it? You're probably not the only one. It has a Megaman feel to it, and you can notice it right off the bat, but it's got enough unique features that it's still fun to play. The story goes as follows. Some random year in the future, the world is run by computers. Just by that alone, you probably know what's going to happen, but I'll proceed, just in case you were dropped on your head a few times as a kid. The computer systems go haywire, and you have to play as Nova to take them down and regain control of civilization. Of course, Nova could be a potential twin brother or clone of Duke Nukem. That's besides the point. You need to enter 6 stages, find a contact who is hiding to obtain a keycard into the master control room, and then take down the security system. Once that's done, the sector will be neutralized. Once all 6 sectors are down, you head after the master computer. That brings the total count of levels to 7. It's actually a fairly easy game, but more on that in a bit. When you start the game, you enter the stage select screen. You see the status of all 6 sectors on the bottom of the screen. You want all of those to be deactivated. You can choose which one you want to enter at any time. If you find the keycard and then lose all of your lives, you still keep that keycard, and any first aid kits you have found. So you can get the keycard to the first sector, die, complete the 5th sector, and then come back to the first sector and still have the key for it. About those keys. In order to get them, you need to find a contact. They are usually hiding in out-of-the-way areas, but not areas that are far away from the start point. For example, in the 6th sector, right when you start to go down a ladder into the sewers, there's a contact that will stand. My question is why they're hiding, when it's painfully obvious they're not being attacked. Enemies on the screen will still attack Nova, not the contact. Are the contacts just deemed harmless? So the basic premise of each stage is that you need to first find that contact, then find the entrance to the terminal room. If you find that entrance first, you will need to backtrack, usually a considerable amount. Thankfully, the game gives you what I would presume to be about 10 minutes to complete each stage, which is plenty of time to get things done and also get lost. There's a few other things you can find just laying around the stage. You can find first aid kits, which can be used at any time to replenish your lost health. The other main thing is a helmet, which transforms you into some sort of cyborg that chucks waves of energies at the enemies. I have no other way to explain it. It's cool, but at the same time, no idea what the hell it's supposed to be. It also gives you 3 free hits before the suit is gone, so if you can manage to bring it to a boss fight, the advantage is yours. If you complete the stage and start a new one with the suit still intact, that's even better. But as I said, you only get 3 hits, and it can go quickly if you're not careful. So when you don't have the suit, what is your weapon? Perhaps you've already noticed, but that's the most unique thing about this game. It's a boomerang. You have an infinite supply, but there's a few power-ups you can grab to amplify its abilities a bit. You start with just one to throw it at a time, and with a pretty bad range. You may as well just slash it in front of yourself like a sword. Collecting stars will increase your power bar, which is basically how far you can throw it. Nova isn't Superman, and can't continuously throw the boomerangs at maximum range, so you need to give it a second to recharge before throwing it again. If you don't, it will be thrown at a decreased range, depending on where the power bar is. If you collect boomerang power-ups, you get the chance to throw 2 or 3 boomerangs. Finally, you can grab a red boomerang, which doubles the power. This is especially useful during the boss fights. Here's the catch. The power-ups transfer to one stage to another. However, if you manage to die, you lose one of each power-up stat, for lack of better words. For example, say you're maxed out at 3 red boomerangs with maximum power. You fall down a cliff and perish. When you restart with your next life, you'll have lost one of the boomerangs, they'll go back to the normal power, which is the blue, and your throwing power will drop to about 3/4 of the maximum. Honestly, this really isn't a big deal, because the game is pretty forgiving and the enemies have a pretty good drop rate. Of course, the drop rate doesn't seem to affect hamburgers, which gives you a measly 4 points or so of health, but that's typically 2 hits, and it'll help. Also, losing all of your lives and hitting the game over screen cancels out any power-ups you have, so you start with the basic boomerang again. But as I mentioned a few seconds ago, the enemies drop the power-ups fairly often, so you'll be back up to maximum power in no time. My biggest gripe about the game? It's not the graphics, as they're pretty well done. It's not how slow Nova moves, contrary to the over-dramatic running animation that he has. It's the pitfalls. Yep. The game itself is fairly easy. I'll get to the bosses shortly. But it's these damn cliffs. See, the problem is that Nova moves a bit slower than you'd expect. Many of the cliffs are made so that you need to be right at the edge of the platform before jumping. The problem with this is that you need to time your jumps just right so that you don't fall, as falling obviously results in a loss of life. So you can be running along all fine and everything, come to a small jump, hit a jump expecting to make it, and then undercutting it so that you fall into oblivion. It's this reason alone that can make the game so frustrating. The enemies themselves are incredibly easy, especially with maxed out boomerangs. Most will only take 1 or 2 strikes, and the attack patterns are pretty clear. But these freaking cliffs! Ugh! Now on to the bosses. I just mentioned that the regular enemy attack patterns are set in stone. The bosses don't really change that much. If you go in there with the boomerang at maximum power, or even better, the cyborg suit, the boss will be a cakewalk. The dragon is the most difficult one, just because you need to time when to jump over, or duck under it when he moves to the other side of the screen. The beehive is just ridiculously easy if you just spam the boomerangs. This guy flying from left to right throwing lightning bolts? Come on! Even the final boss doesn't throw any challenge at you. In a typical Megaman fashion, there's 2 stages to it. First, you fight the basic part, which is easy enough. Just throw a boomerang, dodge, and let it hit the boss on the way back. The second part is a bit more difficult, just because of all the crap on the screen at once. But even so, it's easy if you just launch a barrage of boomerangs. The ending is a disappointment too. You're told that you're given the highest commendation. Nova looks back at the screen and gives the thumbs up. Whoopee. Let's move on to the soundtrack. It's pretty catchy. There's a few songs that I caught myself enjoying more than others, but overall, it's a pretty good library of music. So in closing, Power Blade isn't the most original game I've ever played, but the boomerang makes it unique enough so that it's still fun. This isn't one of those games where you know it's a clone of a game and it sucks because of that. This one just has enough added to make it a fun experience. However, the fact that the jumping is questionably flawed and that there's no real challenge to the enemies lowers it a few points on my rating scale. Final score? 7 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.